On this episode of China Uncensored, Google is building an artificial intelligence center in China. If only they could make software to warn them when things are a bad idea. The Chinese regime starts collecting the DNA of ethnic minorities. Ancestry.com says you're 97% in trouble. And finally, China has a new youth ambassador. And he's not a he. Or a she. This is China Uncensored. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. Forget about the looming specter of nuclear war with North Korea. The real threat to China is its own nuclear power plants. A key component of a Chinese nuclear power plant cracked during a safety test. And it's located pretty close to Hong Kong. The plant is actually a joint venture started in 2009 between China's state-owned China General Nuclear Power Corporation and French utility Électricité de France. After the component cracked, the French scientists threw their hands up in the air and said, "We give up! We surrender!" The completion of the plant has been repeatedly delayed. It was supposed to go operational at the end of the year, but now maybe not. Possibly, other countries might want to reconsider nuclear joint ventures with China. But Western companies seem to never learn the right lessons about working with China, which is why Google has decided to build its new artificial intelligence research center in Beijing. It's been up and down for Google in China over the years. Google set up a presence in China starting in 2005, but pulled out in 2010 after getting hacked by Chinese authorities, allegedly, and being forced to self-censor, which they didn't like, / got criticized for. But it's been 7 years. That's plenty of time to forget all the lessons you learned. I mean, I have zero recollection of anything I learned in college, like that book I read, 1984. What was that about again? Anyway, Google doing AI research in China is a big deal. China is trying to become the world leader in artificial intelligence and has invested $161 billion into the field. And the Chinese regime has done such a good job. The Council on Foreign Relations warns China could surpass the US. And whoever leads in AI will be the ruler of the world. At least according to Vladimir Putin, who knows a thing or two about staying in power. Moving on. You may remember last week we reported on the mass evictions and demolition of migrant homes in Beijing. Well, a painter in Beijing, Hua Yong, is afraid you might not believe the scale of it. So, selfie time! I'm actually more amazed those police didn't immediately grab him. Don't worry though, they did try to grab him eventually in his home. Fortunately, it was a swing and a miss because he fled the city after the police came to arrest him for publicizing the evictions. This isn't Hua's first time getting in trouble with authorities. He was sentenced to a labor camp back in 2012 for, I kid you not, filming himself in Tiananmen Square, punching himself in the face until his nose bled, and then using the blood to write 6-4, which is a reference to the June 4th, 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre. Hua Yong is now my favorite artist. But Hua is not alone in being targeted by police. Remember how ordinary Beijingers were banding together to help the migrants? It was pretty much the only heartwarming thing about this story. Well, they got in trouble with the police too. Yes, business people who offered migrants jobs and charity workers who have tried to find them shelter have been interrogated by the police and told to stop helping people. I mean, what were they thinking? Communism isn't about helping people. In fact, since the CCP has decided to evict the migrant workers, helping them is seen as an act of defiance against the state. And in the far west of China is Xinjiang, a region home to about 11 million ethnic Uyghurs. China's central authorities have noted that Uyghurs sometimes look slightly different from other Chinese, and are therefore extremely dangerous. Which may be why Chinese authorities in Xinjiang are collecting DNA samples, fingerprints, iris scans, and blood types of all residents, according to Human Rights Watch. Now sure, the mass collection of biodata might sound scary, but it's being done as part of a free government annual health checkup program called Physicals for All. Participation is totally optional. unless you refuse. But I'm sure it's all for a good cause, such as checking on people's organ health. Although, considering there is some evidence that Chinese authorities are killing Uyghurs to use their organs in transplant operations, maybe physicals for all is just a handy way to identify potential donors. Again, totally optional, unless they refuse. And speaking of treating people like dirt, it's the 80-year anniversary of the rape of Nanking. According to Chinese estimates, 300,000 Chinese civilians were raped, tortured, and killed in a 6-week orgy of violence when Japanese troops invaded the Chinese city during World War II. Xi Jinping was there at the commemoration, but he didn't give a speech. And considering the guy is known for making 3-hour-long speeches, that is a miracle. Moving on to more horrible things happening to women in China, and this time, the Japanese aren't to blame. Chinese smugglers are buying North Korean women. Decades of the CCP's one-child policy resulted in the killing of so many baby girls that China now has a severe shortage of women. In fact, there are about 33 million fewer women than men. The obvious solution is trafficking women from North Korea, where they're sold into a life of sex slavery. On the plus side, they're rescued from a life of extreme poverty under Kim Jong-un's regime. Those are both terrible choices. And the Chinese Communist Party is worried about the youth of China. That's why the Communist Party Youth League just hired a new youth ambassador to show them the way. She's a singer. She's only 15. And according to her biography, she's an actual angel sent to Earth to bring the happiness of music. Here she is, Luo Tianyi. No, she's not a drawing. She's a Vocaloid. Kind of like that Japanese one, only totally different because she's Chinese. As Global Times puts it, Luo Tianyi will help instill correct thinking into millennials. And she's so much better than an actual human. As her creators told the Global Times, virtual idols are easier to manage, different from real-life stars who make their own decisions and do things the way they like, which is hard to control. A perfect role model for young people. Don't make your own decisions, don't do things the way you like, and don't be hard to control. Be like Luo Tianyi. So what do you think? Leave your comments below. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Chappell. See you next time. Hey, quit looking up fan art about Luo Tianyi. There's so many better things you could be doing on the internet, like checking out ChinaUncensored.tv. That's our website, where you can see more great content from us, including half-hour episodes you won't see on YouTube. That's ChinaUncensored.tv. Okay, you can go back and look at fan art.